In this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at the Edit Geometry Rollout. A very important rollout while modeling. Isn't that right there, Zach?
Most definitely.
So let's go ahead and take a look. Guess how we're going to start out?
Let's see. Are we going to create a box?
Let's make a sphere.
Oh.
So we'll make a sphere back over in the corner. Then we'll make a box.
All right.
Yeah, you were absolutely right.
I knew it was coming.
So let's just go ahead and size it out to about, let's not be too greedy on size, about right there. And I'll change its color over to something else. And let's go ahead and make a few of these. So shift select and 2, 3. So a total of 4 of those will be good. And as for our sphere back here, let's go ahead and come over here and increase our radius. You'll see where the sphere comes into play a little bit later. And let's make it, let's say, some sort of a green color. That'll play a part as well. All right, so there's our really cool complex scene that we've now created.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and come over here to the first box, right-click, and go ahead and convert it to an editable poly. Go ahead and close up the selection menu. Okay, or for those of you out there, selection rollout, I should probably say. All right, so now let's go ahead and come down here to the Edit Geometry Rollout. This is where we're going to be spending all of our time in this particular lesson. You'll notice right now that some of the buttons are enabled while other buttons are disabled. The reason is some things are available at all times in object mode and sub-object mode, while other things require you to be in a sub-object mode with a selection to actually make the button work. Like right now, I can't collapse this box because I need to go in there and actually select some sub-object stuff before telling it to collapse.
Right, you shouldn't be able to collapse the entire piece of geometry anyway.
Yeah, what are you wanting to do? Create a black hole or something? A real one, I guess? All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and come down here to Vertex and watch what happens. Now everything starts to light up. Almost everything anyways. We've got Slice and Reset Plane right now. That's still disabled, and you'll see why coming up here shortly. So let's go ahead and get busy. The first thing I want to talk about is the Repeat Last button. This is really cool. Basically what it's going to do is repeat the last operation that you did. It doesn't register everything that you do, though.
Like such as translates, rotates, and scales?
Exactly. What's really nice, though, is if you forgot what it is that will be repeated last, you can simply move your mouse over the button, wait a second, and you're going to get a tooltip that's going to pop up that's going to tell you exactly what it's going to be. Right now, there's no tooltip. Zach, you care to guess why?
There's nothing in there to repeat.
Because that's right. We haven't done anything yet. So let's go ahead and come down here and do something. Let's just select, I don't know, we'll select that real quick, throw a mesh smooth on it. And then let's go ahead and come back up to Repeat Last, move the mouse over, and take a look at that.
We get Mesh Smooth.
We get a tooltip that says Mesh Smooth, indicating that if I was to click again, that we just applied another Mesh Smooth to it, and our geometry just became a little bit more dense.
Very nice.
All right, so let's go ahead and undo. And there we go. So this is Repeat Last, definitely cool. So let's go ahead and switch back over into Vertex mode and come down here and talk about constraints. Right now, if I come in here and grab one of these vertices, let's go ahead and just rotate around this guy. I'm going to move them on the X and Y axes, and you see that I can move it freely. Go ahead and right-click to cancel that. Constraints are really cool. What they will allow me to do is constrain a sub-object selection to move along edges or faces. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right now it's set to none, so that, of course, means I can freely move it around. But if I switch this down to edge, now watch what happens when I try moving on the XY plane. I can only move on that one or that one. So I can only move on edges that I'm associated with right there attached to me. Okay, and of course, if I switch over to face, I can do the same thing, except I'll be moving along this face area.
So you can basically only slide that vertex up and down these edges.
Exactly. And I can't, it's not like I can quickly jump over here on this guy. It's along the edges that I'm right there, that are right there connected to
adjacent edges.
Exactly.
Right.
What's really cool, though, if you're working with a very dense piece of geometry and you're getting in there and you're doing some fine-tuning of vertices or edges or even polygons, turning this on will allow you, it's almost like having these objects move along the surface itself, if you think about it. That's pretty much what this is acting like.
Right.
As opposed to, if let's say you're working in perspective view and you're not being careful, you know how you could actually pull that geometry out or push that geometry in, and that may not be desired. You may actually just want to slide some vertices up or something, but keep it along the actual shape of the geometry.
I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and switch this back over to none. All right, so now we're going to come down here to these 4 buttons, create, collapse, attach, and detach. And I think the first one that we should talk about is going to be attach. It'll make some of these other ones a little easier to understand. So let's start by switching over into polygon mode. And actually, what am I doing? Let's go ahead and come back up here to editable poly. I don't want no sub-object selected just to keep it really simple. It doesn't matter if I'm in a sub-object mode when I do attach, because you'll notice the button's going to be available no matter what. But I just want to keep the scene simple.
Okay.
I think that's a better idea. So when I hit attach, well, before I hit attach, let's talk about this. How many objects are in my scene?
I count 5.
Count 5. If I come up here to the select object dialog box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're absolutely right.
I can count.
So I'm impressed. Just kidding. All right, so let's go ahead and come down here to attach. Watch what happens to my mouse pointer when I move over some geometry. Changes to...
Turned into crosshairs, it looks like.
Changes into crosshairs, absolutely. This is indicating to me that this is a valid piece of geometry that I can attach to the current object I'm working with. So let's go ahead and click. And look what happened to my bounding box. Let's go ahead and undo that real fast. My bounding box right now, with just this one geometry, or piece of geometry selected, is around this box. But the moment I attach this guy, now my bounding box is expanded all the way down to encompass both of these. And the reason is, it's one object.
Very cool.
And we can see this by simply right-clicking to end the Attach tool, coming up here to Select Objects, and count 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice Box 02 is no longer available.
Because Box 02 is now part of Box 01.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and cancel out of that. And let's see, what can we do next? Let's talk about the attached list over here. So I just opened up my settings dialog right there. So attach list. This is very nice when you're working with a complex scene that's got a lot of geometry in it. And let's say there's a specific set of things that you want to attach into a particular object, but you don't want to risk accidentally selecting something that you don't want to be combined into the one object. So you can use the attached list. And of course, I know you guys all out there use good naming protocols. So with using a good naming convention, you can simply come down and find the objects that you're interested in attaching, and then simply hit attach. So there I did multiples at one time.
Very nice. Very convenient.
Okay, absolutely. And so, and also I will just go ahead and point out, if you have attach active, just from those of you used to working with older versions of 3ds Max, if I come in here and hit H or do my select by name up here, it will still open up a pick object dialog, and I can pick an object from inside here as well. Okay,
all right.
Just wanted to point that out. And so finally, last thing I want to show about attach is that I can attach different geometry types as well and have those automatically convert over, such as an editable mesh or another editable poly, or even a standard primitive. Right now we've got this standard primitive sitting back over here, and you'll notice that as I move my mouse over it, the cursor changes again.
It's an eligible piece that we can attach.
Exactly, indicating I can click, and it has now become part of this one object.
It looked like it absorbed the color of the original shape as well.
Absorbed the color of the original shape too, because it's part of this object. It's
right, okay,
all that.
Cool.
So I'll go ahead and right-click to cancel out of my Attach tool, come back up here to the Select Objects dialog. How many objects are in the scene, Zach?
One now.
Just one, exactly. So let's go ahead and cancel this. And now what I want to do is move on up here to this Create button.
So, do those other objects actually exist as elements of the object?
They do. It is a sub-object type that we can come into, element, and I can still grab these guys. I can rotate them. I can scale them. I can move them if need be. So I can still work with them almost as if they were still individual objects, but I have to do it at the element sub-object level.
So that's how it differs from a group.
Exactly. A group would actually still have the objects individually placed in the group itself.
Very nice.
Okay. So let's go ahead and switch up here to, let's see, Polygon sub-object mode, and I want to grab that polygon, and I want to grab that polygon right there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit delete to get rid of them. Okay, so now I got a giant hole, and this allows me to talk about the Create button right here. This is great stuff. Watch what happens when I hit Create. I see all of my vertices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's come in here, and I'm going to click. Now when I drag, look what I get.
You get a dashed line.
Get a dashed line. So I'm going to come down here and click again. Click again.
I know where this is going.
Now I'm going to double-click, and look what you got.
Very nice.
Very nice. We now have created a polygon. And this polygon is actually... Oh, are you going to ask something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say this polygon right here is actually... The vertices are all welded. It's just one vertex right here.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be able to show this in just a second. Let me go ahead and take just a second and finish this guy off. Notice how, as I'm going through adding these polygons in... Double-click. I am doing this in a... Oops, I did right-clicked one too many. Let's go ahead and come back into this. I'm doing this in a counterclockwise direction. Okay.
And why is that?
This is so that my normals point outwards from these polygons. In other words, so that I can see them. Because if the normals faced inwards, then it would look like there actually wasn't a polygon created, while in essence there really was. It's just you wouldn't see that polygon unless you went inside the object, or unless you did a forced two-side or used a two-sided material or something.
So counterclock for normal out, clockwise for normal in.
Exactly.
All right.
So let's go ahead and do this one over here real quick. And I believe we've got them all. Now, to demonstrate the point I was talking about a second ago, I'll go ahead and come up here to Vertex. I'll hit F4 to enter into Edge Face mode. Select this vertex right here, and when we move it around, look at that.
So it's automatically welded together.
Yep, it's just
awesome.
one vertex. I can prove this by opening up the selection rollout, and vertex number 6 is currently selected.
Very, very nice.
Okay, so that's create. Now with create, we can also, while in vertex mode, we can create isolated vertices that just sit out in space if we wanted to. With edges, which, oh, by the way, if you do that, you can then turn around and go into Polygon and actually turn those into polygons as well.
Right.
It's a really neat way to quickly start laying out a shape. We can also come over here into edge mode, and if I come down here to create, what this will allow me to do is, again, you'll notice how my mouse pointer changes to crosshairs when I go over a vertex. I can click on that vertex. I still get a dashed line. I can drag across to another vertex, click, and I've done what, Zach?
You just created a new edge on the surface.
Just created a new edge, exactly. If I do another create, this is an important note to make. I cannot cross over or attach to just an edge. I got to go to an actual vertex, okay?
Okay.
So there you go. All right, so let's go ahead and undo. All right, good enough. So that's going to bring us over to, well, collapse. Let's go ahead and talk about collapse real fast. To do collapse, what I want to do first is go ahead and use cut. And we're going to spend a few minutes talking about cut in detail a little bit later. But let's go ahead and come over here, and I want to cut from there. I'm going to cut down to here. And let's cut from there all the way down to here. And let's cut from here, and I want to miss those. Get them really close to right there. All right. Now, let's pretend that what I was trying to do was to cut across and have all these guys be a single vertex in the middle.
All right.
Okay. So at the moment, I have not exactly achieved what I wanted to achieve. Now, if I come up here and open up my selection rollout again, you can see now, as opposed to saying vertex number 6 or whatever is selected, it says 3 vertices selected. So I now have multiple vertices selected.
Right.
Well, I can come down here to collapse, bink, and fix that problem. Now I've got vertex 516 selected, and it is just one vertex. Okay.
Very, very cool.
Very handy.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and come over here to our sphere real quick, and let's make some points about collapsing when working with other subobject types. In other words, I'm going to switch over here into polygon mode, and let's select this polygon right here. When I collapse, what do you think is going to collapse?
At a guess, I would say it's going to collapse the vertices at the corners of that polygon.
You're absolutely right. All the vertices that are at the edge, or all the vertices touching this guy. So we'll come in here, collapse, and that's exactly what happened. Okay?
Very nice.
So let's go ahead and undo that, and you'll notice we can do the same thing over here when working with edge subobject. We'll grab an edge. Now which ones do you think will collapse?
I'd say the one at each end of that edge.
Exactly. One at the top, one at the bottom, and collapse right into the center.
It is actually really handy, too, because I know sometimes when I model, if I get carried away, I end up with extra detail that I just don't need.
Exactly. So you can go in there, if you need to, just collapse them.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Okay. So let's go ahead and undo that, and let's see, what can we move on to next? Detach. Detach is really good. What detach will allow me to do, we're talking about this button right here. I'm going to come back over here into polygon mode and make this selection. Remember when we grabbed this guy a little bit earlier. And what I want to do with him, click detach, and I can detach this as a new object or a new element. And you'll see right here that I've got a place to put in a name for this guy.
Right.
Let's just call it Buzz Object.
Okay.
And of course I can detach it to an element, and that'll actually stay part of the geometry. But I want to actually detach it as its own object. So now you'll notice that as I start to rotate around it, that he's no longer highlighted white. It's because I'm still in subobject mode with the original geometry selected. Let's go ahead and come out of subobject mode and click. And now we've got Buzz Object selected. And if we open up the Select Objects dialog, you can see there are two objects.
So he now actually exists as a separate object.
Exactly. So, very, very handy.
Very nice.
All right, so let's go ahead and undo. I'm just going to come up here and right-click on undo and go all the way back to the point that I did the detach. So now we've got everything put back together. And let's come on down a little bit further. Next thing I want to talk about is the slice plane. Slice plane is great. Let's first go ahead and come over into element mode, grab this guy, and I'm just going to move him kind of out of the way. Of course, you'll notice as I move these elements around, look what's happening to my bounding box.
Right, because it's part of the object with the rest of the cubes there.
Exactly. All right, so this gives me something a little easier to work with, a little cleaner as far as the VTM is concerned. What I want to do is go ahead and make a polygon subobject selection. So let's just select right across there. All right, so we don't have the top or the bottom selected. Now what I'm going to do is come down here to Slice Plane, turn Slice Plane on, and let's go ahead and hit F2. Okay, this will just make it a little bit. Let's turn Slice Plane back on. That was weird. It like double clicked on me.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and hit F2 to turn off the selected polygon shaded faces. And now as I move this up and down, take a look at what's happening. Might be a little bit easier if I zoom on in here. Look at this proposed cut all the way around, all these new edges. As I move my slice plane up and down, I'm seeing those new edges interactively move up and down with my slice plane. That's because full interactivity is currently turned on. And this feature is found up under Edit Geometry. If we scroll down a little bit, there it is, full interactivity. If I was to turn it off and now come back over here and I slide my slice plane up and down, look what's happening.
It only changes after you let go of the mouse. It doesn't actually track each motion of your mouse.
Exactly.
Very cool.
So I'll turn full interactivity back on, and now away we go. Okay?
Very nice.
So the whole idea of this is basically to go in there, place where you want it, click Slice. Once you click Slice, that actually commits the slice. You can kind of think of the slice plane as like a giant cutting laser, or actually a giant cutting laser plane, if you will,
I'm
that
with
just
you.
slices through stuff.
Right.
So if I turn my slice plane
It's
off...
a nice analogy.
Well, thank you very much. So I turn my slice plane off, I come back up here to vertex. Just this is pretty important to point out right here. You'll notice that the vertices are indeed welded all together.
Right. It's only laid down a single vertex right there.
Exactly. Now I do have the ability, let's come over here and pick on this other guy, to actually do like an incision. We're doing polygon surgery now.
Oh, wow.
So let's go ahead and turn my slice plane back on. Let's go ahead and demonstrate the fact that we can scale this. We not only move it, we can scale it and we can rotate it. I'm going to turn on angle snaps, grab my rotate tool, and just rotate this guy quickly, 90 degrees. And now let's go ahead and turn that off, and then we'll just move it back over, and you can see there comes our interactive edges. All right, it's about right there. What I want to do this time is turn split on. What split is going to do is actually, it's not just going to be a slice that's going to add the new detail in. It's going to be an actual slice.
So it's like it's going to add an extra vertex.
Exactly. So each cut's going to have, or each edge that gets cut is going to have two vertices there.
I gotcha.
So with that in place, I'll come down here, click Slice, turn off the slice plane, and let's check this out by coming back up here in the vertex and grabbing one of these vertices and pulling. And we've got a slice. Be careful. If you pull the wrong way, it's going to look like there was a polygon magically added. No, that's not quite the case. It is actually an incision. So let's go ahead and use some of the tools that we've seen. I'm going to open that one up. Let's grab this one right here. Open this one up a little bit more. Now I'm going to come back up here to Create. Let's switch over into Polygon mode. Back to Create. And I'm just going to go from here, here, and double-click there. And let's just grab here, here, and double-click down there.
Very nice. So you were just able to add detail in where you just opened it up.
You got it. And then I come in here, click, and you can see that as I move this around, this all is the same. It's all welded together, same piece of geometry.
Very nice.
Now, let's go ahead and take a break. Let's talk about something here.
Okay.
I really hope that our viewers out there understand why we're taking the approach we're taking. I decided that it would be best to go over the editable poly in detail like we're doing right now, as opposed to actually doing a modeling assignment, for the simple fact that in the next VTM, we're going to start focusing on modeling specific things. Hint, hint, characters. Okay? I don't want us to have to stop a lot in the next VTM and give concept descriptions behind different tools.
Right.
I want to get those out of the way now. I want to get them across to all of our beginners out there. Of course, some of this stuff may be a little bit too beginner for our advanced Max users, but we're only at issue number 3.
Right.
Issue number 4 is when things are going to start to heat up.
Well, I mean, character creation is so intensive anyway that, I mean, if we had to stop and explain every single tool we were using, we'd never get through the video.
Exactly. Well, we'd get through it, but then you'd end up with this being a 2-disc set, which I'm sure people wouldn't complain about, but that'd be quite tiring making a 10, 15-hour-long VTM,
Exactly.
And, modeling takes time. So I just want to remind our viewers out there that don't worry. We've got a really cool project lined up with a cool character, and we're going to see who can make the best one. So don't worry. This is going to turn into a very interesting thing. But this VTM right here, the whole idea is I want to show you these tools. I want to show you how they work so that you can get in there and you have a few weeks to practice with them before we come out with the next thing. In fact, you know what? I wouldn't mind if any of you guys posted on the website some sort of model and say, this is what I created after I watched VTM issue number 3 and went through and saw all these different tools that are available for Polymesh.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, so sorry for the quick break there. I wanted to take a moment and say that.
Right.
Because, somebody watching this may say, this is a modeling VTM?
Yeah, somebody might be upset that we're not actually in here creating something right now.
Yeah, now, you know what? I will create something at the very end of this VTM. It will be cheesy. And it will be quick.
But, it should show us how to use the tool.
But it'll show us, it'll make something. Right now I'm thinking like a watch or something.
Okay.
A piece of a watch.
Cool.
But anyways, that'll just be a little bonus thing because I wasn't even planning on doing that.
Right.
All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. So coming back down, we just took a look at the slice plane, slice and split. The reset plane over here, if I turn my slice plane back on, you'll see we're still rotated at 90 degrees. I can simply come over and click reset plane, and that'll just reset the plane back to the original size and orientation that it was originally at. Let's go ahead and uncheck split because this could bite us with quick slice, which we're about to do. So in other words, split's used with slice and quick slice. But let's come over here to Polygon real quick, and let's pick on this guy. And I'll go ahead and make a selection. So we'll grab those guys. Let's go ahead and hit F2 up here to make this a little easier to see and perhaps turn our grid off. Now, back up under the Edit Geometry Rollout, I'm going to come down to Quick Slice. The way it works is I'll simply move my mouse up here, click at a point where I want the Quick Slice to begin. And now watch this. As I move my mouse around, I get, again, interactivity with edges that's going to show me where this slice is going to take place. And it's going to happen throughout everything that's selected. And so since I selected all the way around all those polygons, it's going to cut all the way around.
So it's pretty much a lot like the slice plane, just faster.
You got it. So I just clicked
Hence
again.
the name.
Exactly. So I just clicked again to complete it. Now if I come over here and start, let's go ahead and zoom up on that, or frame up on that. Now if I come in here and rotate around, you'll see that my edges go all the way around.
Very nice.
And since I did not have split on, I can go ahead and come over here into vertex mode. Let's grab just one of these vertices. And you can see that.
So as opposed to making an incision with split, you just added more detail.
Exactly. Again, we can go ahead and come back in here real quick. Go ahead and turn split on, just as a fast demonstration. Quick slice again. Go ahead and click again. Let's do another one at an angle. Click, right click, come back up here to vertex, and take a look at this. Remember what happens. If you see that happening right there, no, it's not the fact that a polygon was added. Let's undo. It's the fact that you're pulling it the wrong way. So we'll pull that one out that way and this one out this way. So we did indeed make another incision into our geometry.
Very cool.
Okay. So let's go ahead and come up here, right click, and let's see. Let's go all the way back. Let's see. Let's go all the way back before the slice. There we go. All right, so let's see what we have to talk about next. Come on back down here. We've got Mesh Smooth and we've got Tessellate. These are two ways of quickly adding some additional detail.
I think you missed the cut tool, man.
Oh, you know what? That's awful. That's one of the best ones that we have.
Yeah, I know, man. I've been sitting here looking forward to using that one.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. No, I'm just kidding. I did miss it. Thanks a lot. That's why I've got you here. So I'm just going to kind of undo back so this guy's in good shape again, and he is. Cut tool. Cut tool is awesome in 3ds Max version 5. They've enhanced it a lot. Very, very neat. And it works with full interactivity. With that being turned on, it shows you where the slice and dicing is going to be taking place. And here's what I mean. Let's go ahead and activate the cut tool. Watch what happens to my mouse pointer as I move it over geometry. Ooh, it changes into an interesting thing. In fact, watch what happens to it as I move it over an edge. Ooh, it changed again.
Shape.
Watch what happens when I move it over a vertex. It changed yet again.
Wow.
So this is letting you know where you're clicking at. Is it going to be on an edge? Is it going to be on a vertex, etc.? So how does it work? Oh, this is so simple. Let's go ahead and just move that down a little. I'll click starting from this vertex, and it's already making suggestions. How about we cut this way? How about we go this way? Okay.
So because of full interactivity, wherever you move your mouse, it'll make those suggestions as to where the cuts will go.
Exactly, and it's going to show you these edges.
That's awesome.
And if you turn it off, you're just going to get the old dashed line and then...
Right.
Okay, so full interactivity is absolutely awesome in this case right here. So we just drag across the other side. Let's say I wanted to make the cut there. I could just simply click and it would make it. Or if I wanted to pull it like somewhere back here in the middle, like maybe something like that right there. Okay, then I could click again. All right, let's go ahead. I clicked one too many times. Go ahead and go again, and go over here to this corner if I want to. And again, I'm watching my actual mouse cursor to watch how the icon changes to let me know that, yes, I'm about to actually be cutting into a vertex or not into a vertex. So this is definitely cool. Slice tool is extremely powerful.
And just as a note, the split operation will also work with cuts as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's see. Anything else we want to do? We've sliced this guy up pretty good at the moment. I think that really gets the point of cut across.
I think so.
Cut's just very powerful. So let's go ahead and turn cut off. Now what I want to do is come down here and focus on mesh smooth and tessellate. This M smooth is just like putting a mesh smooth modifier on my geometry, except it allows me to go in and target specific areas to add additional detail to. Take a look. Let's go into polygon mode here, and let's just select this guy right here. Actually, let's pick on the bottom. I think that's going to be a little bit cleaner for us as we're starting to kind of slice this all up. So I'll come down here, click on Mesh Smooth, and we have just added in one iteration of Mesh Smooth. If I come over here and open up the options, of course it's going to go ahead and show me what will happen if I hit OK or Apply. If I hit Cancel, then this will be canceled out, and we'll go back to the detail we added in just a minute ago. But right now, we've got several different settings that we can use, but the one thing we don't have is an iterations number. Basically, all you need to do is just continue applying M-Smooth again and again to up the iterations, basically.
Right.
Now, we've got smoothness, which deals with looking at basically the sharpness of corners and determining if it needs to put in another polygon or not. And we've got separate by smoothing groups and materials. And this is, again, do we want to put polygons in to smooth this area, or do we want to keep it hard edged? And we talk more about this later on in the subdivision surfaces section. So you can see it there instead of me repeating myself twice.
Right.
All right, so I'll go ahead and click OK, and you can see I've got the additional detail. As I continue, let's go ahead and do a repeat last. As I continue, it continues to refine it, making the original polygon that I had selected appear smoother, smoother, and smoother, more and more round.
So when you're using the M-Smooth command, you have to manually add iterations of smoothing.
Exactly, by clicking M-Smooth again and again. Absolutely. All right, so the next thing I want to do, let's go ahead and let's see who else we can pick on. Somebody who's not all sliced up really bad.
Options are getting limited, man.
Yes, I see that. This guy looks pretty good right there. He almost looks like the only guy left.
We could always collapse some of these vertices, too.
True, very true. Or we could just go in there and delete an entire element if we need to.
Right.
Let's pick on this guy right here. What I want to do now is show you tessellate. I'm going to go ahead and open up options on it. I think it's important to have options from the very beginning on this. And right now, the type of tessellation is edge. What that means is all of our corners right here on the selected polygon, basically we're cutting all of their edges in half, and that's where we're tessellating from.
Right.
Okay. If we switch over to face, what face will do is actually slice, if you will, or cut from the edges or the corners of the selected polygon.
Okay.
So rather from the middle of its holding together edges or from the corners of the edges. Either or. When working with edge itself, we have a tension setting down here, which basically allows us to push in or pull out, as you can see here. So as I up that, it's now pushing out, or I can even go negative with it and start pulling it in.
Very handy.
Okay. So you have that ability to do right there. You could also just go in there and pull a vertex if you want.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hit OK, and we're just adding additional detail. Now if I come back in here and do tessellate again, since I have 4 different polygons selected, it's going to work on those 4 polygons.
Wow.
Okay. So using that right there kind of as a basis for this next thing, what do you think is going to happen if I come back over to my poor little sphere that's just sitting out here all by itself, go into a vertex mode, grab this center vertex right there. Whoa, that was a little bit too close. And come on down here and open up tessellate. What do you think is going to tessellate?
Well, so far the tools have reacted in a certain way. Like when we just select a vertex, it always affects all of the adjacent polygons. I'm going to bet the same thing's going to happen.
Okay, so we'll click on it, and that's exactly what happened. So basically all the polygons that were touching this vertex right here are getting tessellated.
Very cool.
Okay, great way for adding in additional detail. All right, a couple more things real fast. We've got Make Planar. Make Planar is really important as you go through and you start doing extrusions and your, let's see if I can give some sort of example. This is already going to end up being pretty planar. If I come up here, open this up, chamfer it up, and let's say I come over here and let's go ahead and go back into Polygon, select that polygon, and let's just grab a bevel real quick and up a little and down a little, and then up. Who knows what I'm making. Now, if you ended up having vertices that were, basically this thing's non-planar, so you end up with something that, I don't know, Looks a little bit like that. And
Right.
you need to get this, of course, into a planar surface. And all you need to do is go over here. We can switch into polygon mode and come down and click Make Planar. Bing, and there we go. It's now been made planar. Okay. Now we may need to actually rotate it because, do you know what it did?
It looks like it took like a kind of an average of the normals of those vertices.
There you go. And it's created, so it's a little bit cocked, but we could always come over here and rotate this. Or we could, there's other things we can do. We could do view align and grid align as well. Where if I wanted to come up here and simply say, come down here to view align, and look at that.
Ah, I see.
Okay, so what view align is going to do, actually it works a little bit differently if you're in an orthographic view or if you're in a perspective view. Do you know exactly how it works there, Zach?
Well, in an orthographic view, what it's going to be doing is like just translating your vertices so that they line up and they are planar with the selected orthographic view.
Exactly, and the problem with that is there's a good chance it'll change your shape.
Yeah, it'll alter your shape just a little bit because all it's doing is really sliding those vertices. So that
Exactly.
could deform what you have selected.
I mean, I wonder if we could demonstrate real quickly by coming over here and let's just move this up a little bit.
Rotate him.
And rotate them heavily. Let's do something like that right there.
So you can tell right now that is a long shape, but from that orthographic perspective, it looks actually quite small.
So view align, and look at this.
And it just brought those vertices all straight up to planar them out.
Right. And now, of course, if we had undone, or let's undo that, excuse me, and I come up here, if I use my perspective mode and do view align, look what happened.
It's actually going to take those vertices and rotate them to match the perspective view.
Exactly. You can see how it's rotated it right there. Okay.
Very cool.
So grid align, basically same thing except we're dealing with our grid at the bottom. And in perspective mode, it will actually translate those vertices just before warned.
As opposed to rotating.
Right. So coming down here to hide selected and hide selected, unhide all, and hide unselected. All this boils down to is if I'm working in, let's say I'm working in, let's see. I'm going to come over here, our interesting thing that we're creating, and let's grab that. That's good enough. I could simply come down here and say, hide all my unselected stuff, and now I can focus on just this guy. This is very important. Like if you're working on the eye of a character and you've got a selection set made and you go in there and grab that selection set, say hide unselected, then you can focus on just that.
Yeah, this could also be really handy like if you've got a really heavy scene and you've got to just work on a certain part of it without slowing down your viewport.
Absolutely. So you can keep your viewport fast, or you can also keep less clutter going on.
Right,
on the
right.
scene.
Less visually confusing.
Exactly. So of course we could have also done hide selected as well, and unhide all will bring everything back. Okay, we're pretty much about done. We've got name selections down here where we can copy and paste selections. Let's go ahead and say what would be a good thing. Let's just make some spheres real quick.
Okay.
I think, in fact, you know what? Let's do a file, reset, no, yes, and come over here. I hate it saying goodbye to those things.
Yeah, they were looking nice, man.
I know. We'll create this guy. We'll move him on over. I'm going to make this really quick. Don't worry. Let's go ahead and come over here and convert this guy to an editable poly and this guy to an editable poly as well. Now what I'm going to do is switch into subobject, and let's just go ahead and come across here, and I want to grab all of these vertices right here, and I want to put them into their own selection set. So I can simply come up here and type in, let's say, Buzz Selection. It's real important for some reason. This is going to be a character's eye, vertices, or whatever. Or you have an example?
Well, it's like if you had a really big project. Let's say you had like several really large space stations that were the shapes of planets, and you were and you were selecting like maybe all of the ship hangars within those space stations. You don't want to have to go through with each of these space stations and select each hangar on each one.
Exactly.
So what this is going to allow you to do is select all the hangars on one, and you can go on from there, Buzz.
And copy the selection over to another.
Exactly.
So I've made a sub-object selection. I can now come down here to copy and open that up, and you can see that basically I'll have a listing now of all of my sub-object selections down here. So I can just click on Buzz Selection, click OK. Now, if I want to, I can go ahead and come over here to this geometry, go back into the same component, because remember, that's where you'll actually find the specific sub-object selections.
Right.
And since these two geometry objects are the same, two objects are the same, this is going to work nicely. If they're not the same, it'll still apply it, but you may end up with some.
You'll have a different selection set.
Exactly. Right. So right now you can see there's no sub-object selections available, or no selection sets, for Vertex. But now if I was to come all the way down here again, you'll notice that paste is now enabled. I'll simply click it and look at this.
The same selection set
Same
appears.
selection set, absolutely. And if I come up here, this object now has buzz selection.
Very cool.
So it's a way of copying from one and pasting it on
Could
another.
save a lot of time.
Absolutely. All right, last thing is a couple of things real quick. We've got full interactivity. No reason to talk about this. We've already pointed it out when working with cut, quick slice, and the slice plane. It's a way of seeing detail added into our scene quickly. And the very last thing I'll spend 2 seconds talking about, let's just delete these two guys out and create a box.
Yay!
Another box. So we'll come back in here. We'll take this guy, change my color over. This time we'll go with that. Yeah, that looks familiar. Come down here to another editable poly. And I'm going to go all the way down to the subdivision surfaces section. Tell it to use NURM subdivisions. I'm going to up my iterations a couple so I've got something nice and smooth. Then come back up here, enter into vertex subselection. And look at this. I can see a low-res cage around my geometry that I can go in there and actually, if I wanted to, select and work with. And by coming down here, come all the way back down into the Edit Geometry Rollout, Show Cage. If I had cage turned off, I lose my cage. Okay?
Very cool.
So that's going to pretty much wrap up this lesson here. Hope you guys got a whole lot out of it. I hope now all of these different buttons up here make sense for all of you guys out there that are beginners. And maybe some of you guys out there that have been using Max for a while, some of these things perhaps you haven't used in the past, and this served a pretty good purpose.
Some of them are new for version 5 as well.
Absolutely. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys for your time. See
Thank
ya.
you.